Hi, today is February 1st, and it is named World Hijab Day by some people. Some women celebrate today and celebrate hijab as a symbol of choice. Some people even look at hijab as a symbol of diversity and inclusion. But that's not the only narrative about hijab. For millions of women who live in the Middle East, hijab is not a choice. Women are forced to wear hijab since they're children, and once they're grown up, they would get arrested, they could get lashed in prison for not wearing a hijab. Recently, many of these women started a campaign with the hashtag Let Us Talk on Twitter and telling the stories of their violence and oppression they experienced under hijab and Sharia law. I'm one of these women, and today I'm sitting with three other women like myself to share our stories and our point of views with you. Guest number one, would you please tell us why you're wearing a mask and how do you feel about Hijab Day?
Hi everyone. I am a victim of Islamic ideology, and the reason why I'm wearing mask is because being anonymous is actually a right that we all can practice, and especially dealing with the Islamic ideology, they have zero tolerance for criticism. We've seen many examples. For example, 2015, an Afghan girl was murdered on the streets for criticizing Quran. So therefore, that's why I'm anonymous. And um, on this day, it's very hard to actually understand. But from our point of view, um, um, we grew up with mandatory hijab. We grew up going to school, going to gender segregated schools, wearing hijab, and attendance without hijab had zero tolerance. So growing up, we had to endure all of that pain as children, and when we when we became adults, in the hopes of having a better future, some of us have immigrated to other countries for us. But we always look back and we want to be the voice of the people who are still back there and who are still dealing with these consequences of Islamic ideology. So for us now to speak up about Islam and what we went through, to get labeled as Islamophobia is actually very heartbreaking. And it's as if we have to fight with Islam. And on top of that, we have to fight with non Muslims who are supporting Islam. And that makes this path pretty difficult. But we won't give up and we will talk. So I urge you all to come and join us and let us talk. Thank you.
Thank you, guest number one. Guest number two, would you like to introduce yourself and tell us why you're wearing the mask?
Hi everyone. I think all of us have been or could have been this little girl in hijab. I mean, we all have experience of wearing hijab in our childhood. Um, so when we say "Let us talk" in our campaign, actually this little girl symbolizes that us. So that's why I'm wearing this mask, and also because most of people who actually participated in Let Us Talk are nobodies. They are not famous. They are ordinary people with pseudonyms on Twitter. So, and they deserve to have a voice. So we are also three women from those group of people. So we can have a mask and still have a voice and talk about our stories.
Oh,
But
hello.
hi, I'm Mahia, and I always identified myself as a feminist. But now it's really heartbreaking to see that feminists celebrate something like hijab, because for us, for most of us, who have been in Iran, hijab is actually a symbol of oppression. And with celebrating something like hijab, it feels like feminists are excluding our voice, our stories, our suffering, to just glorify hijab. And Let Us Talk, actually, what we do, we are asking feminist progressives to let us talk, to let us have our own voice, to tell our own stories. And I always feel like a survivor of the Sharia law, the Islamic ideology. And I think I owe it to my sisters to tell my story, to talk, because their stories, our stories, should be heard, should be told. I owe it to, for example, Sabah Kordafshari and Yasaman Aryani, who are in prison for protesting against the compulsory hijab. So let us talk.
Thanks, Mahia John. Yep, that's true. We all who grew up in Iran had to wear a scarf going to school, and we couldn't do it without having that. I do still have nightmares about the woman that stood in front of the university and looked at every woman that entered the university, and if you were not wearing the right clothing, if she decided you're not wearing the right clothing, you couldn't go to the university, and you could miss a class, you could miss an exam. Basically, you would lose your right for education if you did not wear a hijab. And a lot of people say here hijab is a choice, but when you put it on a 5-year-old, on a 7-year-old, where is that choice? Thank you for sharing that. And now, guest number 3, tell us about yourself and your mask.
So I'm wearing this mask as a symbol of a kid in a Muslim family and Muslim society who demands the world to let her and let us talk. This picture is me when I was about to turn 9, the age when a Muslim little girl must wear a hijab. Well, actually, we were forced to wear the hijab from the day we started school or even preschool year, so that we get used to it. That was when I was probably 6, even 5. I don't really remember. The word Hijab Day to me means the World Oppression Day, when the world celebrates the oppression and discrimination of women, queers, and non-binary people by Islamic rules, which are not necessarily always legal rules, and in Islamic societies. So, hello. This is me. I'm Vida, a traumatized survivor of an Islamic ideology. Hijab is what women are required to wear to cover themselves, no matter how much discomfort it causes in their daily life, in social activities, or even grinds down their personalities. And it is worn so that men will not have to control their desires and actions, so that men will not be responsible for their behavior. It is women being uncomfortable so that men are even more comfortable. It really breaks my heart even more when feminists defend the hijab and choose to ignore the population, especially the kids that are forced to wear it against their will. And I personally feel alone and suppressed when my life experience as an oppressed woman is censored and even hushed up by being called Islamophobic. So here, I'd like to shout and invite those whose concern is freedom of speech to shout with me.
Thanks for listening to us. The hashtags are No Hijab Day, Let Us Talk, and Free From Hijab. Please look for us and listen to our story.